Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to be checking out another song in the avant garde experimental theme. This one is actually one that's been requested a little bit. It's not one of my, super popular requests, but we definitely have a few here. We have the band is Therion, live orchestra, and well, it's a symphonic metal band that has a live orchestra. We have requests from Dimitris Karagiannis, Sugoruyo, Gabriela Hernandez, Monsieur Gaga, Eric Valverde, Sebastian Gomez Osorio, The Misanthrope, and Oscar Brash Music. Nobody requested a specific song except Gabriela, so shout out to them for giving me some direction, because otherwise I probably would have just checked out the most popular YouTube video, and that has not always been the best option for me. So we're going to check out what is this? I'm just blanking. Via Nocturna, parts 1 and 2. Comes out to 9.5 minutes. This one didn't quite break that 10-minute mark that most of the other songs have, but it's 9.5 minutes, close enough. So yep, let's get some symphonic metal, live orchestra, Therion Via Nocturna. Let's check these guys out. Nice organ with some Baroque era chord progressions. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Fantastic use of the orchestra. Well, at least the organs and the couple of strings that are playing now. Really great job at layering texture creation between the organ and the strings. Got a bit of a choir here too. Yeah, got a huge epic sort of majestic thing going on. I like that rhythm going on in the cymbals of the drum in the previous section. Everyone else was pretty much straight hitting on the beats, and he was just kind of playing around with some, some crazy accents and little lead-in notes. Yeah. Okay, so we have some woodwinds in here now. They were missing from that first section. Really love the use of space here. So I have some really interesting thoughts about the instrumentation so far. I'm going to save that for later, but yeah. I am so interested in this story right now. I wish I knew what they were saying. Alright. It's really interesting how the band is used to fill space rather than the orchestra. Yeah, very cool. That random like dropout where it just reduces it to just a couple of instruments, real light on the dynamics. Very popular technique in classical. So every bit of this so far has just been gorgeous. And it kind of makes me wish the metal band wasn't present. And that's... I'll touch on that later. Really beautiful layering going on here. fundamental things going on in the drums. You really got to listen for them. Most everybody is sticking to a very rigid time, and the drums are the most playful with rhythmic runs. Dang, are 9 minutes up already? Holy cow. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool things going on in there. Um, the first thing I want to touch on though is that to me, this is not symphonic metal. This is metal symphony. And that might seem like it's Brian, you're just switching the words around. That doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess on one level it is just a semantical difference. An issue with semantics. I don't know if semantical is a word. I make up a lot of stuff on this channel. Um, but yeah, to me though, it's a huge difference because usually when you listen to symphonic metal, the metal band is the spotlight, and the symphony, or the strings, or the samples, or whatever's giving it that orchestral sound, is more of a foundation. A lot of the times they're used to fill up, space to kind of make the sound, the song sound wider, or maybe they're used to create an audio floor um, for the rest of the song to sit on top of. It's not usually the spotlight though, um, except for choirs. I don't think choirs are ever regulated to kind of the background. I think they're just a little too powerful, and being that it's vocals and humans being a vocal, beast, that we just kind of gravitate towards orchestra or choirs because it's the spoken language, and we just kind of gravitate towards that. Uh, but when it comes to especially like strings and brass, and to me especially woodwinds, but I mean that's a completely different issue I have with woodwinds. They really get pushed to the background in a lot of metal stuff. Um, but here, though, the orchestra has the spotlight. The metal band is mostly used to be bigger and louder. And possibly for texture, there are a couple of situations where the fuzz of the distortion in the guitars really adds a bit of texture to, the audio scene, kind of changes the way that section sounds compared to what came before it and stuff like that. But the core of the composition happens within the traditional orchestra stuff, and the guitars and bass are mostly relegated to simple riffs or pedal tones, using that distortion as to fill up the space around the orchestra, which is the complete opposite of all the symphonic metal that we've checked out on this channel so far. And usually I think that the orchestra goes underutilized, and here I really think the metal band, is underutilized, but maybe in a way that says they aren't even needed. A drum kit can be replicated in the percussion section. The only difference is a drum kit can be done by one person, and if you wanted to have bass and snare and cymbals, dependent on how many cymbals you can really feasibly fit around a person, you're going to need at least two minimum. You might get away with one, but being that your bass drum is going to be hand hit, with a mallet rather than using your feet, any sort of bass and snare and cymbal is going to require three arms. Easy. So probably most feasible, it's going to take two people to do that, but it can be easily replicated. The only thing that's not easily replicated would be the guitars and the bass. And like I said, outside of some texture things and volume, I don't really feel they added much to the song. Um, on the other hand, though, like I said, they do add texture, and the song would be fundamentally, well, at least those sections would be fundamentally different without them. So maybe, see, I'm still thinking this as a collaboration, where there is there's the symphony and there's the metal band, and they're two separate things. But I really should be thinking of it the other way, where it's a symphonic band that an orchestra that just happens to have an electric guitar in it. Um, and I think when I look at it that way, this is not a metal song. It's actually uh, avant-garde classical, like pushing the boundaries of neoclassical, progressive classical. Can we even call it that? Um, it's basically like 100%. If you take the guitars out, this is a phenomenal orchestral song. Whoever composed this could easily be put on one of the most amazing, a good composer of our time as far as classical music goes. I wouldn't necessarily think of this person as a metal musician or a metal songwriter. In my eyes, he's a classical composer who just happens to use metal instruments in his compositions. Um, and like I said, if you take the metal out, you have a really good core orchestral song. Something that I would not see any issue with playing in, a fancy hall with a bunch of rich people going to see an orchestra. This is something that I could see them listening to. Um, which I used a lot of negative things talking about the atmosphere of that situation. We could probably go into that another time. But yeah, so there's a lot of aspects of this that is real good core classical composition, and yeah, I think that's a really important aspect. Like I said, a lot of people recommended this to me as a symphonic metal song or band, and at least this song itself is not symphonic metal. This is just a straight up orchestra song. This is a classical composition. And I think that's really cool, though, that it still gets classified as metal, even though in my eyes it's not a metal track. Um, just because it's like people see things differently, and genre's up to interpretation already because it's such a wildly biased thing to begin with. But I always like seeing things like that. Like when we listen to, I don't know, what's that band? Dream Theater. We can all pretty much agree that that's prog. There's like nobody's gonna come up and say, I kind of think that's pop music. No one's gonna say that. But here, there's just like this disconnect between how I'm seeing the music, how I'm viewing it, and how other people are viewing it, and that interests me. Um, just like on an intellectual level, because like I said, so far, pretty much everything's been straightforward. And genre's kind of weird like that, where there's a lot of bias coming in, but we treat it like it's a subjective thing. Well, we treat it like an objective thing, but it's actually relatively subjective. So that's cool stuff. Uh, Back to the music though. Uh, so I touched on the symphonic part. I said something about the metal band. Like I said, there's still part of me that says this could be done well even without the guitars. And I think there's a version of this that is completely acoustic that still sounds really well. Still sounds really good. Um, but the texture and the width of the electronic guitars, the electric guitars, definitely adds to those sections. So it would be a different song without them, but it would still be an equally good song. And I can't say the same if we remove the symphony, we have pure silence in some sections. So like I said, that's just such a reverse from the symphonic metal we've checked out so far. Um, there is a lot of really cool things in here. When you listen to a lot of the orchestra bits, the guitar bits, and the choir bits, they're very rigid with their time feels. You have a lot of straight quarter notes, eighth notes, a handful of times sixteenths. The song doesn't really have a lot of quick runs in it, but there's a lot of rigid. This is the time, and we're going to be playing these rigid very baroque sounding ideas. But then you listen to the drums, and I'm telling you, go back and listen to the song a second time and just focus in on the drums. And they do some really fun, almost funky stuff with, especially in the cymbals, where they'll come in with these little like 30-second pickup notes into the beat, and it's really fun. I didn't really pick up on it till the end. I'm gonna have to go back and check it out and see if it's throughout the whole song. Um, but yeah, it's such a juxtaposition to everything else that's happening in the song, rhythmically. So that's really cool. That's really cool. But yeah, I don't know who composes. I don't know if Therion is a band and they all work on the songwriting. I don't know if there's a central person, or if this is like Igor, where like Igor is the composer and he writes the band stuff and then he gets people to play. I don't know the situation with this band, but whoever composed this, whether it's a person or persons, um, yeah, this is strong writing. I don't know if this is typical. Maybe this is a one-off. I don't know the rest of their discography. I've only heard these two songs, which it's technically one song, two movements. And there's even that Heartbreak. I think that Heartbreak around the 3 or 4 minute song was actually the separation between parts one and two. But yeah, they are a strong classical composer. I would love to hear anything that they wrote. It's just they have a good ear for this. They have a fantastic creative mind for writing this kind of music, and like I said, they're thinking a little bit outside the box because this is like 90% orchestral music, but they have a distorted guitar in there, and they're using it in ways that are very specific to it. You could use a tuba or a trumpet and really push the air so much that it sort of distorts as it's coming out, and you can kind of get that distortion texture out of brass instruments. But it's really not the same. It's a unique texture to the guitars. And the volume itself, it's easier to get that out of an electric instrument since you can just turn the amp up rather than having to get that out of someone's chest and diaphragm. And you can definitely get loud dynamics out of an acoustic orchestra, but it's just so much easier out of an electric instrument. Um, so yeah, he's just rethinking a lot of classical music, and there's a lot of Baroque influence in here. Little bit of Renaissance era stuff, but to me, especially the opening of the first part, the first movement, definitely heavy Baroque stuff going on. Um, but yeah, this is just I could listen to this. I could talk about it for hours. Just completely being flabbergasted. But I don't understand. I mean, obviously, I think it's because the band gets labeled as metal, and because of that, gets kind of swept under the rug as far as classical composition goes. But it's kind of interesting to me that such a strong composer could be completely. I mean, a modern composer. Let me see. Let me see something. Um, 2020. This was released on January 1st, 2020. Um, I think that's accurate because this was auto-generated by YouTube based on marketing information. So yeah, this is a modern song. I don't know how old Therion is, how old of a band they are, but if they write music like this all the time, it surprises me that this kind of stuff went under my radar and is kind of missing from the mainstream classical discourse. And that kind of sucks because this is some good stuff. It's not hyper complex, but not all classical music is. There's still a lot of really good layering and chord progression, and just really good writing all around here. Um, so yeah, yeah. Shout out to everybody who suggested this band, Gabriella, for suggesting the song specifically. I enjoyed this a lot. Um, as usual, you guys are fantastic with your requests. I don't say that at the end of every video. I really should because I don't think we've really listened to many bad songs so far. Um, or maybe any, except Primus. But yeah, so I mean, you guys are just amazing. You guys keep tossing me bangers, and I don't understand how you don't ever get anything wrong. It's just the best community I could hope for. So thank you guys so much, every single one of you for your requests. Um, yeah, this is where you guys come in though. Hit me up in the comments. Other songs I should check out by Therion. If this is their mo. If they have a regular singer, because it just dawned on me that everything in here is choir based, or one-off singers where they have a solo, they're a solo singer out of the choir, is what I'm kind of guessing with those alternating solo vocal aspects. But yeah, if they definitely have more of this stuff, I'm interested. I'm also interested if they have anything else. Sorry, maybe more traditional metal stuff, but this stuff specifically is what I want to hear in the future. Um, from them. Like this is just such good stuff. Yeah, so put that stuff down in the comments. You can like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Check out my Twitter and my Patreon if you'd like. Those links are in the description. And you guys have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. And yeah, I'll be back next time. See ya.